You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Incoming transmission.
To the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Good afternoon, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. The new millennial conservative resistance does indeed begin right here, right now, with you. And this is the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network, coming to you from beautiful Western Phoenix, Arizona. Today, if you are watching on the Facebooks, on the YouTubes, or on the BitChutes, you may notice I am adorning a certain controversial piece of headwear that by zero means indicates any sort of racist predilection or any other negative connotation except in the minds of those who create it themselves. Yes, indeed, I am speaking of the red Make America Great Again hat. I am wearing this in solidarity with the students of Covington Catholic High School. Covington Strong. That will be in today's tweets as well. So welcome, my friends, again, to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. A whole lot has happened in the past week, and we are going down this new path here on the HoloNet podcast, and part of that path is pausing to take a look at the new playing field as it is set out before us and determining how we can help, how we can make a change. And this week, a change has been made. A definitive change happened. A sea change, if you will, has occurred in the state of Arizona with the election of Dr. Kelli Ward, former Senate candidate, former state senator, to the chairwomanship of the Arizona Republican Party. I tweeted out when the results came out last night and would like to again echo my congratulations to Dr. Kelli Ward for her victory in that election. Now, Madam Chairwoman of the Arizona Republican Party, and they are screaming here in the state of Arizona. By whom? I mean none other than the Arizona Repugnant and, shocker, Meghan McCain. Meghan McCain tweeting out that it's a great victory for the Democrats. What does this tell us? This tells us they're scared. Go ahead and throw it here into picture-in-picture for those of you who are watching online. Be sure to check us out on YouTube and also on BitChute, Facebook.com/HoloNet. We are also on Twitter at the HoloNet if you want to get at me, but we'll go ahead and take a look at that website right now. Oh, here we go. Arizona Capitol Times. In GOP upset, Kelli Ward to lead the Republican Party. Failed U.S. Senate candidate Kelli Ward, a conservative firebrand. Listen to that language, man. They're starting off swinging already, calling her a failed candidate. Will lead the Arizona Republican Party through the 2020 election. In a contentious three-way race for AZGOP chair, Ward came out on top Saturday, defeating incumbent Jonathan Linus. Meanwhile, Arizona Democrats opted to retain their party chairwoman Felicia Rotellini to another 2-year term upon her win. Ward issued a message of unity to a thinned-out crowd at the AZGOP State Committee meeting Saturday at Phoenix's Church for the Nations. She said, "I hope that you will join with me because it's time to unite. It's time to put past problems, issues, disagreements behind us so that we win big in 2020. Ward insisted she will be able to bring together the conservative and establishment factions of the state party by making re-electing President Donald Trump the top priority. Ward defeated Linus 633 to 526 with a third candidate clenching 65 votes. Republican losses in the 2018 election were the common refrain throughout Saturday's Republican gathering. I wonder why. Could it be because Martha McSally, who was a milquetoast candidate to begin with, is only a sitting senator today because she was appointed there by Governor Doug Ducey, and she was roundly trounced by Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who, by the way, y'all need to lay off the dress. I'm going to put that out there, and I'm going to come back to that later. But Kyrsten Sinema has been getting all the wrong kinds of condemnation and scorn from many conservatives. Guys, it's a dress. We have so many better reasons to be angry about Senator Kyrsten Sinema than a dress and some knee-high boots, okay? Keep your eye on the ball. Anyway, I promise we're going to come back to that. I'm going to show you guys the pictures online. But to come back to Kelli Ward's victory, Kelli Ward's victory in this campaign represents a new direction for the Arizona Republican Party. Having been a precinct committeeman myself, I understand the power of the establishment Republican Party here in Arizona, and it is strong. And the establishment party of the establishment of the Republican Party were firmly in the McCain camp. I experienced this firsthand. Any speaking out against those establishment values, against the good old boys club, as it were, is met with immediate consequences in the Republican Party of this state. Kelli Ward's victory could very well toss that on its head. I know that she's putting out a message of unification, but realistically, this is an alarm for the establishment Republicans that their BS is not going to be tolerated any longer in Arizona politics, that the end has come to their game, and that establishment control over Arizona Republican politics died, and may it rest in peace, with Senator John McCain. The power base is broken, no one has assumed his throne, and it looks like no one will. So now it is time for a new type of Republican, a new type of conservative, to rise up in the state of Arizona. People of moral judgment, of constitutional values. And that is why I say we need to get out of this muck of getting on Facebook and getting on Twitter and going, hey, look at Kyrsten Sinema's dress. She looks like a stripper. I'm not kidding. This is the stuff I've seen online. And it's shameful. Shameful. How shameful is it? What kind of hypocrites are we? Republicans and conservatives, let's grip the mirror here. Let's take a good long hard look. What kind of hypocrites are we when we are full-throatedly defending the Covington teens for wearing their MAGA hat? Okay? Because putting on an article of clothing does not mean that you're looking for trouble, or that you're looking for scorn, or that you're looking for condemnation, and then turn around and heap scorn and condemnation on Kyrsten Sinema for wearing a relatively inoffensive piece of clothing. Does it look like something that a senator should wear, in my opinion? Probably not, but I don't have the same fashion sense as she does. Is it offensively revealing? No, not really. It's a longer skirt. It comes down just a bit above her knees, and she's wearing knee-high boots. It's not offensively revealing. It does look like it's made out of the same fabric that my grandmother's couch was, so there's that, but come on, guys. The state of Arizona elected Kyrsten Sinema. That should be the alarming thing. Not that Kyrsten Sinema appeared to rip off an upholstery store and make a dress and go-go boots out of it. That should not be your biggest concern here. And a lot of people made a very clever and very salient correlation to the left claiming that the Coventry boys were looking for trouble by putting on their MAGA hats is the same as a young woman is looking for trouble by sauntering down the street in a red short skirt. That she was asking for it. Well, it's the exact same argument here that the Covington boys were asking for it because they put on their red MAGA hats. And now are we saying that Kyrsten Sinema was asking for it because she looks like a love seat? Come on. We cannot be this hypocritical. We have to be better than this. Is it funny? Holy crap, it's funny. It's hysterical. I've been laughing my butt off at everything coming across Facebook here. But at the same time, we have to be better going into 2020. The losses in 2018 have to inform our decisions and our strategy. It has to have meant something. It has to have taught us something. And I'd like to think that the election of Kelli Ward as AZGOP chair indicates that to us. That we have learned something. That we've learned that the Republican establishment in Arizona is ill-equipped to handle 2020. Hell, the Republican establishment in toto may be completely incapable of handling 2020. Just take a look at the last week in the White House. And the immediate tweets of Trump caved. You know, I'm going to jump right out there and admit, I poked a little fun. I had some fun with it. I tweeted out earlier that, let me see here. I hope Trump succeeds, but if real Donald Trump's Rose Garden gambit fails, and Trump caved after all, the GOP needs an alternative, and there is another. Mad Dog 2020. Add Nikki Haley as VP and boom, it's unstoppable. Mr. Secretary and Ambassador, America may need you again. Go to warm standby. Got a rather chilly reception for that one online. And I can't blame people. It looks like I'm turncoating on President Trump. I'm not. I'm just saying we need to keep our options open, just in case he was full of crap the entire time. Why? Because I like when President Trump does good stuff. I don't like when President Trump does dumb stuff. But I support my values. I support principles over party and over a man, because a man can fail. A woman can fail. A person can fail. That is why we must have principles, and why we always have to plan for every eventuality. The clock is now ticking. In 20 days, I believe it's 19 days now, on the 15th, President Trump's authorization will run out for the government. If in that time frame, the Congress has been unable to pass a budget which satisfies the requirements of building the wall, or the barrier, or the fence, or whatever we're going to call the damn thing, if that satisfaction is not achieved, there will A, be another shutdown, or B, be a declaration of national emergency by the president and an end run around the Constitution. Both of these options are bad. So right now, we need to be excoriating our members of Congress to make a damn deal. Find a way to get it done. And if he should fail, we need to be ready in 2020. We may need to primary the president, which is a nightmare scenario right now for the Republican Party, because they are not prepared for that eventuality. So from the grassroots, we must be. We must be ready to place people in office of character, of principle, of substance, who will defend the Constitution of the United States, defend our rights as individual American citizens. And that is what we have to focus on going into 2020. We must support the president, yes. We always got to have a plan B, though. And you know what? People can call me out for that. They're probably going to. That's fine. but I believe in principles over party and the nation over any president. And take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to jump now to Venezuela and the disturbing news coming out of South America. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. Stick around.
I see people coming together not for divisiveness of party or for dichotomy of thought, but for unity in principle. In the principles that founded our nation, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Today, ladies and gentlemen, those principles are under the sternest attack that we have seen in many generations. It has become a crime in this nation nearly to express a difference in opinion from what is held by your party to be doctrine, from what is purported by the media to be truth. We have an opportunity to reach out to our fellow Americans regardless of their creed and regardless of their political inclinations, and unite as Americans, not as Republicans or as Democrats, as liberals or conservatives, but to unite around the principles that have guided this nation so well. I've covered a lot of stories, but the story that remains untold is the story of America in the 21st century, when we choose to turn back the tide against progressive socialism, when we choose to embrace the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights, when we remember what it is to be Americans. And that principle will not die as long as there's one man, one woman, one child who looks defiantly into the night and says, I am free.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
And we're back. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. Thank you very much for joining us this Sunday, the 27th of January in the year of our Lord 2019. And y'all in the rest of the country are still in 2019. Here in Arizona, we're already in 2020, as I said earlier this morning with Dr. Kelli Ward in a huge upset winning the AZGOP chair. Just wanted to direct your attention to a couple stories here. Links will be in the description. KTAR News shows that wonderful tweet from Meghan McCain saying, "Don't get me started on this. Great day for AZ Democrats." Really, Meghan? Really? Kind of leads us into a story from The Blaze. And this is showing just how far the daughter of the Maverick is gone. Meghan McCain, according to The Blaze, now saying that under Trump's leadership, character in the Republican Party seems to be gone. She said this on The View. Without the leadership of her father, the late Senator John McCain, who tragically lost his battle with brain cancer last summer, McCain told CNN's Van Jones that the character of the Republican Party, now led by President Donald Trump, seems to be gone. "I call myself conservative." Nope, couldn't keep a straight face. I mean, I'm still a member of the Republican Party, and I still vote on the Republican ticket, but Republicanism is so tied up with being for Trump, McCain said, adding that she's not a never-Trumper and is doing her best to navigate today's complex political landscape. Not that complex, Meghan. Either you're a small government constitutional conservative or you're not. I understand Trump supporters. I understand why they voted for him. I also understand why people think he's tearing this country apart, and the end times are coming. Later in the interview, McCain explained why she believes the Republican Party will forever be changed by Trump's presidency, and which she said, is not entirely possible. Oh, they actually have the clip from CNN, so we're going to go to that audio real fast. Hang on. Meghan McCain speaking here. Hang on.
Next guest is one of my first and favorite guests we've ever had on this show. She's an outspoken conservative. She's actually a co-host on The View. I'm hoping she can help us understand what is going on inside the Republican Party these days. Please give a round of applause for Meghan McCain.
This show. I think it's such a...
I know, exactly.
All the way around.
Well,
thank you for having me back.
Oh, no, thank you for being back.
Yeah.
And you know,
I love this show. I think it's such an important show.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, and you're such an important guest for us and such an important part of the family, and you and I get a chance to talk offline so much. And, you know, the last time you were here, your dad was sick and my mom was sick, and now both your dad and my mom have gone to a better place. I have not talked about it publicly. I just can't do it. You've actually, I think, done a better job of
I'm going to skip around here a little bit. I'm going to try to find this. Hang on.
Sharing your
daughter, I'm grieving and I'm sad. As an American, Trump changed it so much, and it's not what I read. So I'm just trying to, honestly, I'm trying to survive in a lot of different ways, and politically as well right now, and just, but I'm not a liberal, and I think it would be intellectually dishonest for me to go on TV and start espousing beliefs that I didn't believe in.
I think it would just be intellectually dishonest for you to espouse beliefs like you're a conservative, because you're not.
Something will come out of this in one way or another. I just don't know if it's going to be the traditional Republican Party, because Trump changed it so much, and it's not what I recognize anymore, and its character seems to be gone, which to me, when I grew up, conservatism and character, like my father was like really, really, I would say Meghan,
I'm going to stop you there. The Republican Party that your father represented is gone and should be gone. That is the establishment Republican Party of yesteryear that was still talking about small government policies at election time and ramping up the size of the government and the deficit in between. Okay? So yes, the Republican Party must change. Why? Because the Democratic Party has changed and is changing, and we are behind. So don't sit here and look back with yearning and easy time at the glory days of the Republican Party before President Donald Trump, because happy days will not be here again, where you can say one thing and then do another and get away with it. Go on, Meghan.
About character.
Yeah.
And now it seems like lying, well, it's okay. It's a little nebulous. Stealing, it's a little nebulous. You know, and it just, I don't think those are American characteristics. And
Wait. Like getting involved in the biggest banking scandal in Arizona history and getting a slap on the wrist and then continuing to serve for another 20 years? Is that the kind of lying and stealing you're talking about, Meghan? Yeah, the savings and loan scandal ring any bells?
it scares me a lot.
You know, this fight to keep, our parties, good parties, has, got a history. in the Republican Party back in the 50s and 60s, they had to band together, folks like you, and push out the Birchers. And then even in the 1990s, Bob Dole had to take a hard stand.
Yeah.
In fact, I love this clip from Bob Dole. Play that clip.
No, we're not going to skip ahead and play a clip from Bob Dole here, Van, because I think you're feeding the wrong views. And I'd actually like to sit down and do a show on Bob Dole. That's going to come up later, I'm sure.
Good.
Yeah, that's
So good.
that's so good.
Yeah.
Is it harder for your generation of kind of Abraham Lincoln Republicans to band together and boot folks out the way that Dole did, the way that the anti-Birchers did? Is it harder for you now, and if so, why?
We're so outnumbered. I mean, Trumpism is I think it's over 80% of Republicans support President Trump, and maybe they're doing it because they don't have another option, but
No, maybe they're doing it because he's actually doing what he said he was going to do. Or at least trying to. President Trump, I am not a full-throated Trump defender. I am not going to don a cape and say I defend President Trump, everything he does. Because I've called him out when he's done stupid crap too, and I do it on a daily basis. And I mean, this guy does some award-winning stupid constantly. But that's not why 80% of Republicans like him. And don't fool yourself, Meghan.
I think the populist Trump brand really has taken over, which is why there's this sort of no man's land that I'm in.
You know why populism has taken over, Meghan? Because we have 50 years of Republicans who ignored the ever-loving crap out of their constituency and pushed through their own agenda. But no, go on, Meghan.
Because I didn't become an ever-Trumper either. Mm-hmm. But it's funny you play that clip because it's actually one of my first political memories was I was at that convention and I gave my first interview when I was 11. And it's just a different time. I know. And then Jack Kemp was his running mate, one of the great conservatives of our time. And it doesn't really exist that much anymore. And by the way, this cynicism has come with Trump. I mean, I don't see a lot of leadership with people in office either. And there's some politicians that I thought would really be amazing at helping fight this fight, and they've terribly disappointed me.
This particular
You mean like Jeff Flake terribly disappointed the vast majority of your fellow Arizonans? You mean like Martha McSally has been nothing but a complete and total disappointment since she entered the Senate? You mean like, I don't know, your father was a complete disappointment for the vast majority of his political career to anybody who held right-leaning conservative views? Oh, God.
Widget around the wall.
Yeah.
Is something I just want to get your thoughts about because it gets very tense. I watch you guys on The View because I feel like Trump took a tough conservative principle, which is border security. I have a different view of it, but I can respect a conservative who wants that. And he put it in the blender with a whole bunch of racist, crazy stuff and Steve King.
What kind of crap is that? Put it in a racist blender with Steve King, huh? God, Van, shut up.
And then you poured it out, and now you have to drink the whole thing or spit it all out. And, so then Democrats get mad and say, listen, the wall is racist. And then I think,
it's not.
You could hear that as we're saying all Republicans are racist. How do you make sense of our pain and our frustration? I mean, you really are in this kind of tough situation, aren't you?
Well, I will say I completely understand the other sides. I live in Manhattan, and I just have to leave my apartment and...
Yes, you live in Manhattan, and before you lived in Manhattan, you lived in a beautiful ranch located in Cottonwood, Arizona, so you are completely disconnected from anything remotely resembling conservative politics in your generation or even in your father's generation in the state of Arizona. Next.
And I am inundated with Republicans are Nazis, they're the worst, everything you believe in is awful and ruining this country. Every moment of my life when I'm in this city, I feel it. And I think sometimes when I hear anyone who supports the wall is racist,
right,
it's a trigger for me because I know people who are not racist who support the wall. But
Megan's triggered.
feel like when we're living in a time when you have one or the other, people get very tribal. And I just wish my friends on the left, and I include the people I work with, would just see my side a little bit, just a little bit, see what it's like for somebody in Arizona who, has seen the impact of maybe illegal immigration or sees a liberal on TV talking about how great sanctuary cities are and thinks that's crazy as well. But it's hard for me because I get very triggered as well because I get very territorial over my people, if you will.
I've noticed that about you, and it seems to me that the idea of you being accused of being a racist is is offensive even more than most people.
I think it's the worst thing you can call anyone.
Why do you feel that way? Were you raised that way? I mean, why?
Yes, and I come from. I think people maybe forget. I mean, it is not. I don't know the experience of a minority. I'm certainly not. I'm a privileged white woman that has a senator for a father. But my little sister is adopted, and there's a very famous political moment in 2000 when my father was running for president, when Karl Rove had a whisper campaign done that my father had an illegitimate black child who's my sister Bridget. So at a very young age, I had to sort of reconcile why would that even be a bad thing? Why does it matter that I have an adopted sister? I am not saying in any way this means I have experience.
I think it's important for people to understand that because you have a sister, you've had a certain set of experiences, and you've seen an impact of racism in your own life, that charge hits you harder than it might hit somebody else in a casual conversation.
It scares me, too, because I think it's the worst thing you could call anyone. I think it's...
Yes, Meghan, it is the worst thing that you can call somebody is a racist because it has been turned into the end-all be-all end of every argument. You can defeat anybody by simply calling them a racist. And by getting onto Van Jones's show, you're feeding that power. By getting on Van Jones on CNN, which, by the way, kudos to you for going into the lion's den. Not! Because that actually is a very friendly environment for a leftist who is really playing conservative on TV. Meghan, let's take a sip of water here. Meghan, let's be frank. You're playing in to the power of calling somebody a racist to win an argument by strengthening that it's the worst thing you can possibly call somebody. Yes, it is one of the worst things you could possibly call somebody, but we cannot give it that power, that it is the conversation ender, that it is the game winner. So we have... The proper reaction, if somebody calls you a racist following a political argument, is dismissal. Because they have just come right out and said, I can't win this argument intellectually. I have to go for the lowest common denominator now and call you a racist. The proper response is not to be triggered, is not to be angered. The proper response is to dismiss them.
Hands down, the worst thing you can call anyone, especially a public person, is that you're a racist blank. And I also think it's thrown around too much because if I'm racist, then what is Richard Spencer? And I think that there has to be delineations, which I know just like me saying that in particular might make people change the channel. But I think it's thrown out too often. But I will say that for me, of all the things that have ever been said or accused, it is the most deeply hurtful. I have taken it home to me at night. I'm just here to ask questions. I'm here to represent where I come from. I'm here to represent my party. I'm here to represent my family. And honestly, if people don't like it, use a rotating seat. You can replace me. It's like having a residency in Vegas. So, you can have somebody else do it instead.
Well, we want to keep you right where...
Well, Meghan, you don't represent me. And I think that's something we need to talk about. Who represents millennial conservatives now? Who represents us? I have a couple of suggestions. I'm going to throw them up on screen right now for you. Here's a good guy for it. Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder is a good representation of millennial conservatives. Candace Owens is a fantastic representation of conservative millennials. Has been for a long time. Allie Stuckey. If you haven't seen Allie Stuckey, check her out. Allie Beth Stuckey. Fantastic representative of conservatives in politics. The Defenders of American Exceptionalism, Stephen Airy. DOAEshow.com. And if I may be just so bold, me. I represent myself. I represent constitutional, conservative, millennial thinking as I see it. But we are not limited to Meghan McCain. So why does Meghan McCain get this carte blanche to say that she speaks for millennial Republicans? I didn't elect her. I may have elected her dad once, but I didn't elect her. Who made her the set representative of millennial conservatives? Oh, The View did. That's right. The mainstream media said, we're going to bring on Meghan McCain. Why? Because Meghan McCain is a millennial and she's a Republican. But she'll play nice. Why? Because her father knew how to play the game. And we're sure that he taught her well. This is what I meant when we need to re-examine. Are we helping? What are we accomplishing here at the HoloNet? And it has to be to call out the inconsistencies that we see and force Republicans and conservatives to grip the mirror and identify the heart of the issue. The heart of the issue is that we are giving the moral high ground to people who are not deserving of it, to parties that are not deserving of it. We give the moral high ground to the establishment Republicans. We give the moral high ground to the Democratic Party. We give the moral high ground to people like Nathan Phillips when we judge the Covington kids for this, for a hat. And we must stop yielding the moral high ground. We give up that high ground whenever we allow the argument that you're racist because you wear a MAGA hat, or you're racist because you want the border wall, or you're racist because you're a conservative. Whenever we even allow that conversation to take place, we are yielding that high ground. You need to cut it off. Negative. I am not a racist. There is nothing you can point to or prove that says I've ever been a racist. I've never held racist opinions. I am not a racist. Boom. Shut it down. Do not allow that point of argument, that point to stand. You destroy it instantly and move on, taking apart their straw man argument. Their meaningless argument on how a border wall is immoral. But the second racism comes out, you have to shut it down. You don't yell over them. You don't blackball their speech like Antifa does. You simply point it out. No, I am not a racist. I never have been. I never will be. And I abhor racism. Next. And you move on. Do not give them that ammunition to use. You can't win an argument when the argument is on their terms. As Sir Winston Churchill said, and was very famously portrayed by Gary Oldman, you cannot negotiate with a lion when your head is in its mouth. You cannot give them that argument to make. Take a quick break. When we come back, as promised, we're going to talk a little bit about the goings-on in Venezuela. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there with Meghan McCain, but that's driving me crazy that Meghan McCain is being taken as the face of millennial conservatism. Folks, that's what the HoloNet has to do. That's what Defenders of American Exceptionalism are doing a great job doing. That's what Steven Crowder with Louder with Crowder is doing a great job doing. We have to seize back that mantle. We have to take back our rightful place as the conservative millennials that we are. Constitutional conservatives need to have a place in this discussion. Not your token establishment Republican, Meghan McCain. Take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
And we're back. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network from Phoenix. I'm your host, Matt Holloway. Trouble brewing in the South. Trouble brewing in Venezuela right now. BBC.com reports 2 hours ago on the Venezuela crisis that, according to John Bolton, the White House will respond to threats against diplomats. He tweeted on Sunday that any such intimidation will be a grave assault on the rule of law. He has warned Venezuela that threats against American diplomats or opposition leader Juan Guaido, who I'm probably mispronouncing, will be met with a, quote, significant response. His warning comes just days after U.S. and more than 20 other countries recognized Mr. Guaido as Guaido, I'm sure I'm getting that wrong, as interim president. They accuse President Nicolas Maduro of rigging last year's election. President Maduro was sworn in for a second term earlier this month after an election marred by an opposition boycott and allegations of vote rigging and triggering large protests. The political crisis now appears to be reaching a boiling point among growing efforts by the opposition to unseat Mr. Maduro. Earlier on Sunday, Venezuela's top military representative to the U.S., Colonel Jose Luis Silva, defected from Maduro's government, saying he recognized Mr. Guaido as president instead. Later, Mr. Bolton took to Twitter to reiterate Washington's position, warning others against any form of violence or intimidation. So, what happens now, as BBC goes on? Several European nations, including Spain, Germany, France, and the UK, said they would recognize Mr. Guaido as president if elections were not called within 8 days. But Mr. Maduro has rejected this, saying the ultimatum must be withdrawn. He said, Venezuela is not tied to Europe. This is complete insolence, he told CNN Turk on Sunday. Mr. Maduro added he was ready to engage in a comprehensive dialogue with those who oppose his presidency, and that he had sent Donald Trump many messages, but that he thought the U.S. president, quote, despises us. Really? No, I just think we have a problem with, socialist dictators as a country. He later appeared at a military exercise in Venezuela's central state of Carabobo, where he called for union, discipline, and cohesion to overcome what he described it as an attempted coup d'etat. Mr. Maduro broke off relations with the U.S. last Thursday over the country's support for Mr. Guaido and ordered U.S. envoys to depart Venezuela within 72 hours. As of Saturday evening, as the deadline was due to expire, Venezuela's foreign ministry said it would withdraw the expulsion order and instead allow 30 days for the two sides to set up interest offices in each other's countries. So Washington has previously said it doesn't recognize Mr. Maduro's authority to order our diplomats out. So, here's the question. BBC goes on at some length here. Link will be in the description. How likely are we to see U.S. military forces deployed into Venezuela? Because that's absolutely the last thing we need right now going into 2020 is yet another war. You know, we just got out of Syria, and unfortunately we lost General Mattis as Secretary of Defense because of the manner in which President Trump withdrew from Syria. You know, we've recently gotten out of Iraq for the most part and out of Afghanistan for the most part. Do we really need to be jumping into a civil war in Venezuela? I mean, I am all for liberating the nation from the deadly Maduro diet. But is this time to revisit the Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine and state that the United States has unilateral power to exert military authority over this half of the planet? Or is it time for something a little more diplomatic in nature? Either way, roping us into yet another conflict would certainly spell doom for the Trump 2020 campaign. So my hope here is that cooler heads will prevail, and that if any military action is required, it's done under a comprehensive international coalition where there can be absolutely no doubt of its legitimacy and validity. Nobody but nobody wants to pull us into a war. And John Bolton, of all people, should realize this. John Bolton, who previously presided over the second war in Iraq. Disturbing times. So coming up on the last 10 minutes of the show, I want to do a little wrap up here and kind of give my insights from the previous week. By the way, related story here. If you're Catholic, I think you're allowed to be proud of your church again. Because the Bishop of Covington, the diocese that condemned the Covington teens, did send a rather stunning letter to the parents and students. He said, "Since the time of the other video clips, some of much longer duration have surfaced. Once these went viral, some of the very same people who put tremendous pressure on us to condemn the actions of the students now wanted a retraction from anyone who had previously issued a statement critical of them. All of this, again, based on video. We are sorry for the situation this has caused. This situation has caused such disruption in the lives of so many. We apologize to anyone who's been offended in any way by either of our statements, which were made with goodwill based on information which we had. We should not have allowed ourselves to be bullied and pressured into making a statement prematurely, and we take full responsibility for it. I especially apologize to Nicholas Sandman." As he should. He said, "I especially apologize to Nicholas Sandman and his family, as well as to all Covington Catholic families who have felt abandoned during this ordeal. Nicholas unfortunately has become the face of those allegations based on video clips. This is not fair. This is not just." The letter concluded with a call to end the venom and hate and instead to pray to God for guidance. Good on you, Bishop Foys. It's about time. The lesson here is that the church was entirely wrong and the school was entirely wrong to cave to this pressure, which he confirms. He says it very early on. Within hours, he says, we were being pressured from all sides to make a statement regarding the video clip which purportedly showed students from Covington Catholic High School being disrespectful to Native American elder Nathan Phillips. Based on the video clip showed, we condemned the actions of the students who engaged in the alleged disrespect and promised to investigate the matter. So you leaped before you looked. You didn't even investigate the matter, and you condemned them. As The Blaze says on here, Carlos Garcia writes, "Better late than never," as his subheadline. I mean, I don't know if this could be good enough. I mean, if I was Nicholas Sandman, if I was one of these students, if I was one of these parents, my faith in not God, but the church itself, and in the church's goodness and guidance and leadership would be shattered beyond repair. But know that, hey, as a Catholic, they've at least owned up to their serious, serious error in judgment. And hopefully this can be a lesson to all churches, and to all schools, and to all groups, that you cannot condemn before you have the information. You can neither condemn nor congratulate based on partial information. And I've been praying fervently for Nicholas Sandman and his family, and all the students at Covington Catholic and their families, for God's protection and guidance during this insane time where this right here, this hat, Make America Great Again, brands you as a racist. And where even people on the right are saying, yeah, that's acceptable. No, it's not. There's nothing about this hat about supporting President Trump's policies that makes you a racist. Because again, I challenge you, I defy you to find President Trump's racism in action. It certainly isn't shown in his acts as president. It isn't shown in the lead up to the election. The closest thing somebody can do is come up with some court cases from the 70s that were settled due to rent control in New York and insinuations that they were racially driven. I honestly don't think that was a case of race. I think it was a case of class, where he was looking at renters who couldn't afford the type of property that he was seeking to build, and he was seeking to drive them out through, from what I've read, some rather unsavory business practices to force people to move out of those properties. He was held to account for that. That doesn't make the man a racist. That makes him a crappy landlord. If we prosecuted everybody in the nation for being a crappy landlord, there wouldn't be a lot of property owners. This is important. We have to defy everyone who states that being a Republican makes you racist, that wearing a MAGA hat makes you racist, that supporting President Trump makes you racist. And they're lumping everybody in and showing absolutely no nuance. We have to work within our own parties. Republicans work within the Republican Party to right the ship. Democrats, if I have any Democrat listeners, I'd be shocked. Work within your own party to right the ship. Don't let the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes and the Bernie Sanderses lead you down the progressive socialist hellhole that Venezuela finds itself in today. Today on Twitter, Kamala Harris 2020 is trending. Could Kamala Harris be the next Nicolas Maduro? We don't know. Some of the policies she seemed to espouse could very well lead that way. So even if it isn't her, it could be someone else down the line. California is well on their way now to becoming a hellhole. We have to have discernment as Americans, as people, to be able to see when someone is acting in a manner contrary to the public good. Attempting to secure our southern border is an act in good faith to defend the public good for ourselves and our posterity. Balancing the budget is an act of public good. I didn't address it in today's show because I just don't have the heart and I don't have the words. But what New York has done this past week with their radically unethical abortion law, that brings no good to the world. In fact, it is an affirmation of great evil. By their fruit, you will know them. So on that note, folks, keep your eyes open. Keep your heads clear. And keep your hearts ready to accept as much joy or pain as is necessary for us to preserve ourselves a nation for our children to come. From Phoenix, I'm Matt Holloway. Good night. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Good night, everybody.